Okay, one of the things that I want to do is I want to generate course content items that have practice questions embedded throughout them. My hope was that this was going to be a relatively easy thing to do, but as it turns out, it wasn't very easy, and that's because the learning management system I use, which is Brightspace by D2L, turns out that there's no clean and easy way to embed quiz questions from the quiz library into HTML pages, which are your course content items. So I had to go searching for some sort of a tool that would allow me to do that. Here is an example of one of my course content items. This is a unit of instructions from my existing course from a year ago. And I took this existing set of unit instructions and I generated an HTML page from them that I could then try to embed practice questions sort of partway through. Here was my first attempt to write practice questions to place inside this HTML file. I tried this using the HTML editor that is integral to D2L. As it turns out, I'm not very good at coding in HTML, and so where I was able to get with this wasn't very far. I was able to make some practice questions, and I was able to make some check boxes. You can see here's a true or false checkbox, but I wasn't able to generate any kind of feedback for the students. I wasn't even able to generate any sort of item which would check to see whether or not they had gotten the question correct. So obviously my skills for writing HTML are not very good, and I wasn't able to get very far generating my own HTML. The next thing I tried doing to place practice questions inside of my course was I tried doing what D2L actually suggests, which is to generate a D2L self-assessment. Once you've generated the D2L self-assessment, which consists of a couple of practice questions, you can embed a link to that self-assessment inside of your course content item, which I guess works reasonably well. But what I don't really like about it is that this link is not in line with the rest of the course content, right? If a student is working their way through the course content and then they click on this link, it's going to take them to another page to answer a couple of practice questions, and then that other page turns out to be a dead end. There's no easy way to get back to the course content that they were working on. So what I really want is I want a simple, easy to use file where students can work their way through the course content in a logical order, and I don't want to be distracting them and taking them away from that course content with the practice questions. So this is where I started looking at online web tools for generating quiz questions that could then be embedded into HTML. And I actually tried about 100 different websites. I generated login IDs and passwords for every single one of them. And once I had those login IDs and passwords, in most cases, I found that I absolutely hated these websites. Some of them were just too complicated for me to be able to use, and other ones were generating quiz questions that looked like they belonged in a teen magazine, not in any kind of an academic course. So I was quite frustrated after trying many of these quiz generating websites when I came across one that I did actually like quite a bit. It's called H5P. And what I like about H5P is that it was extremely easy to use. It generated quiz questions with a simple, clean looking format, right? They embedded very nicely into my HTML page with relatively little skill necessary to do that. Everything looks clean and nice and fits the presentation that I already had for these HTML pages. The other thing I really like about the quiz that I made from H5P was, as an instructor, it was really easy for me to put feedback, embed feedback right into this quiz. So if one of my students comes along and chooses, tries this multiple choice question here, and let's say chooses an incorrect answer, and I'll just choose an incorrect answer and hit check, then it immediately tells me that that question or that answer is incorrect. It gives me feedback on exactly why it's incorrect. And it also gives me some suggestions on where I can go to read more on that topic and improve my understanding. As a student, I can go ahead and I can hit show solution if I want to, or I can hit this retry button. If I hit the retry button, it resets the quiz question. Hopefully this time I'm going to manage to pick the correct answer to the question, and I'll hit check, and yes, it tells me that I get it right. I get a little star. It's a nice clean format, gives students instant feedback. It tells them whether they've been learning what they need to be learning, and if they have, then they can proceed on and they can keep working their way through that course content. So yeah, that's my technology item. It's a website called H5P, which seems to be a really simple and easy way to generate all kinds of course content items, quizzes, surveys, and other things that you might want to embed into HTML pages.